Hello, my name is Gabriel Fairman. I'm the founder and CEO of BureauWorks, and I'm going to give you a very quick overview of the power of BureauWorks and why it's much more than a translation management system. So let's get started. When we take a look at our software, you can start a new project very simply by creating a new project, selecting a few fields. And what's important here to note is that your translation memories and your glossaries are all taken into account. When you create a project, I'm going to upload a single file here, but we could upload any number of files. BureauWorks covers over 54 different kinds of file extensions and formats, over 200 languages, which you can add or remove as necessary, workflow steps that can be customizable, and you can add and remove them also as necessary. When I create the project, BureauWorks is transforming your file asset into work units, which is the combination of workflows and languages. BureauWorks is also running an automation based on your system parameters, and it's going to generate the cost at $1,389.93. These costs are detailed to you or to whoever you would like to see things in BureauWorks, which leads me to a very important aspect about our platform. You can customize exactly what everybody does in BureauWorks to very granular perspective. So for instance, I created senior translators who can do all kinds of things in the editor, such as adding terms to the glossary, such as confirming all of the segments, deleting terms, locking segments, etc. But if you notice, and we go back here to my junior translators, I wasn't super generous with them. They can only perform searches in the glossary, open the editor, and TM upserts. So what this allows you is to create very custom experiences around what you would like each and every user to do based on what your design over the translation management system functionality looks like. So going back to the project that we created here, another important aspect is that you can allow users to communicate with each other through the communication tab. So for instance, here I could ask someone a question. Would you like us to translate the non-editable images, for instance? And if I communicate that, and for instance, let's say I have a client who has also access to BureauWorks, and let's log in as a client just to show how simple that can look like. I'm going to log in right now as a client, and I'll be able to see the projects that we're working on, and I'll be able to see the exact communication, and I can respond to that and say, yes, please add them to the quote. So this greatly streamlines communication, makes things a lot simpler from a management perspective. As the client, I can also approve this quote, for instance, or as a requester, I can approve this quote, and this now sets the project in motion. Now we've shown how we can automate the quotes. You can also automate the task placement in BureauWorks as well. So if we go back here to automation settings, auto task placement, you can decide to place tasks to specific vendors in BureauWorks based on quality filters, rate filters, and tag filters, which allows you to have a great deal of control over the matchmaking and how that takes place in BureauWorks. And you can have this with different logic for different org units. So the org units are very important in BureauWorks because they contain all of your settings that are always inherited, cascading down from your account. They allow you to control exactly the behavior that you would like to have for specific content types, for instance, if you're an end client, or for specific clients and content types if you're a translation agency, for instance, or a translator. So the org units are a very powerful concept, and they allow you to guide all of that automation. So assuming you have project automation turned on, once a project gets approved, the tasks get created automatically, and you can assign them automatically as well. Now, let's say you can also override that and I'll assign this task manually to myself as the translator. Perfect. So I've assigned this task to myself. I can see here that it's assigned, and if I open that in the editor, this is where things get interesting. The editor is very flexible. Right now I'm in night mode, for instance, but maybe you don't like night mode, and maybe you would like to see things in day mode. Perfect. The other thing is that maybe you are a big fan of working with in-context preview. Right now this is a docx file that I've uploaded, but maybe I'd like to see what this is looking like if it's a web content as well. So I can enable web preview, and I can type in the URL of what I'd like to see. In this case, I just copied and pasted the content from our webpage onto a docx file that I then uploaded into BureauWorks. I can preview exactly what these translations are looking like, which can be something very useful. The other thing that you may notice is that I'm getting semantic warnings here in BureauWorks. So if I take a look at the warnings I'm getting, and I'm zooming in here for a second, I'm getting here an inconsistency warning saying the term in the source text is translated as plataforma. In the target text, well, the plataforma can sometimes be used interchangeably with system. It may not convey the exact meaning. Sistema would be a more direct translation. So these semantic warnings, they're a part of what BureauWorks can enable from augmentation. So we're leveraging large language models, in this case GPT-4o, to provide translation insights. In this case, a problem of capitalization inconsistency here. And this is super important. The other thing that's happening is that notice that this translation is a learn term. So learn terms mean if you have this turned on, this feature turned on, BureauWorks can learn the terminology that your translators are using, or you as yourself as a translator is using during your translation process. You can also decide to direct your learn terms into your Kanban boards and glossaries Kanban boards. You can create these Kanban boards, which can be super useful to know exactly what's happening with your terminology at any given moment. So for instance, maybe I want to take a look at why gestão was put in progress by this user, Gabriel account. Maybe I can move this forward into published. Maybe I want to reject that term, but now I've published that term, and I can see now, for instance, the full change history of when I published that term. So the beauty around BureauWorks is it allows you to have incredible flexibility around how you are managing knowledge, right? If we're going to take just a quick overview of what is happening, whenever I click on any given sentence, BureauWorks is looking at all of this information that I have, whether it's machine translation, whether it's glossaries, whether it's translation memories, and providing a feed that makes sense and is automatically post-edited. Here, for instance, Microsoft Machine Translation is using usted, which is formal you in Spanish, but I have you labeled as tú in my glossary, and the feed that I'm getting is already upgrading that into tú. It's also picking up, for instance, on the potential issue around the formality of tú in this translation, and depending on the target audience, it may be more appropriate to use usted, right? So it's flagging that for me. I'm the translator. I still have full command, full control over what's going to be used. And just to explain very briefly around what is happening here, if we're let's zoom in here into this presentation. When we talk about context sensitivity in BureauWorks, we're using a RAG translation framework that we've created that is first performing a retrieval step in all of your knowledge base that you've established specifically for your for that specific client, and that knowledge base is then guiding the feed for the platform. We're ranking that information based on, for instance, when it was created, if its overall sense of integrity, and once we rank it using heuristic mechanisms in BureauWorks, we leverage large language models, like I mentioned, in this case GPT-4o, but the framework is compatible with any kind of large language model. We leverage those to make sure that we're arbitrating between those content suggestions in a way that makes sense, that's predictable and scalable for the translator. And the beauty of context sensitivity is that on average, our data shows, and by the way, this paper is available, you can request it, we'll be happy to send it to you. On average, context sensitive translation is 39% more effective than traditional machine translation post-editing. So based on edit distance. So this is a very powerful tool, right? It's learning from you as a translator. It's becoming your own digital twin as you move along. If you make any changes to, let's say, your glossary or any kind of different aspect within BureauWorks, let's say, for instance, here, we have machine learning not being translated because that's what it learned from me. So it's saying traducir con machine learning como tu aliado. But let's say in this case, I don't want traducir. Maybe I want traduzco or I want another verbiage. I can change that. I can adapt that. BureauWorks will learn from that. So that's the context sensitive bit. One thing that's important, whenever you create an account in BureauWorks, large language models are going to be disabled by default. So when you enable large language models, you can either point to your own instance of OpenAI or Azure, or use BureauWorks default instance, which is included in your plan with us. And what's important from a security perspective is, let's take a look here at our basic security deck. But the models that we work with, they're stateless by design. That's super important because that means that the models are always reverting back to their original state after every prompt and response mechanism. So I want to stress that even though we also have agreements with Microsoft and OpenAI in place that also ensure the confidentiality of the data and the fact that it's not available to other customers, not available to OpenAI, not used to improve OpenAI models, etc. This is coming from Azure. The OpenAI language is very similar. The fact that the models are stateless means that any training data that you generate belongs exclusively to you and resides exclusively within your translation memories and your glossaries, right? So BureauWorks is very broad. You can configure any kind of aspect within BureauWorks, but I do want to point out something also that's super important. The idea about BureauWorks is that you're continuously generating data around how your users are performing, how your translators are performing, so that you can make better business decisions. So if we translate, for instance, this file here with translation memory and machine translation, just as an example, BureauWorks is going to refresh in an instant and everything is going to be translated. Great. I'm going to confirm all of these segments. I'm not going to save them into my translation memory, and I'm going to deliver this task. And what's going to happen here is going to be something pretty cool. So now this task will be delivered, and if I go into my project, I'll be able to see that this task went from assigned to delivered, and I'll be able to see in tasks that my payable was calculated automatically here at $74. So you can configure BureauWorks to also automate that part of things as well. From a quality management perspective, if I open this file now in the review workflow and I make any kind of changes here, so like let's say for instance I make a change here from back to más que un sistema, now BureauWorks is going to categorize that change as a terminology change. It's going to say that the change from plataforma to sistema ensures consistency with the term management system used in the source. Sistema is more accurate translation for system. If I mark this as reviewed, I'll be able to see the changes that are redlined here, and this will automatically create a report for me under quality. I'll be able to see this here in reviews. I can filter for today, and I can see I'll be able to see the exact change that we made with the comments. Again, super important, you can create your own error typology in BureauWorks. So if you go into settings, for instance, and account settings business, and this is just one example, you can create your own error typology, and BureauWorks will work within that error typology. Again, without getting too deep into the details of BureauWorks, what I want to emphasize is that you can create a translation program that's highly automated and also allows a lot of room, enables more room for human creativity. From a management perspective, another aspect I want to emphasize is that in tools, you can go into analytics, for instance, and in analytics, you can create any kind of specific dashboards that allow you to see exactly what you would like to see in BureauWorks, whether it's edit distance reports, whether it's file name distributions or geo distributions of your users. It's very simple to create these reporting mechanisms in BureauWorks. So for today, that's what I want to leave you with. I want to leave you with the impression that BureauWorks can do incredible things. Again, I've barely scratched the surface of what is possible here, but I do want to emphasize that BureauWorks is a very powerful tool, can be super customized according to your use case, offers integrations as well into different kinds of platforms and systems. I have a few as an example loaded here into my platform, and it really allows you to take your localization management to the next level, future-proof it, and work in ways that are compatible with the latest advancements and breakthroughs in translation and localization technology. So this was what I wanted to get through to you today. I'm very grateful for your time. Thank you so much for watching, and look forward to hearing from you. If you have any comments or suggestions, let us know. Our team is very keen on listening to any kind of feedback or ideas that you may have. Thank you again for watching, and till next time. Bye-bye.